Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here today in order to present you my progress on my PhD topic, IgA vasculitis with nephritis, challenges and updates in the management of pediatric patients. I am Madalina Andreea Berdie. I'm a first-year PhD student and a second-year pediatric nephrology resident doctor in Iași, Romania. And this is where my vision started from. By seeing everyday children fighting chronic kidney disease, I realized this is a great space we need to improve in our profession. And we can't deal with all the pathologies at once, so my special focus is on IgA vasculitis pediatric patients, and my mission is to improve their management. Here you can see the three projects I started this year. Two of them are focusing on IgA vasculitis nephritis, and the last one is focusing on the depression in chronic kidney disease, adolescents and young adults. Going to the first project, this is focusing on investigating the predictive accuracy of different serum and urinary biomarkers for renal damage in IgA vasculitis pediatric patients, and it will be a systematic review and meta-analysis. About the background, IgA vasculitis is a multisystemic disease. It affects between 3 to 27 cases per 100,000 children, and the renal involvement is the most important one, as the late diagnosis is directly linked to an irreversible evolution to chronic kidney disease, and in up to 7% of the cases, even to end-stage kidney disease. The problem here is that there is a lack of evidence-based guidelines for diagnosis and treatment, and one way to address it is by working towards a risk stratification, which means an earlier diagnosis, a better choice of treatment, and a more accurate indication for biopsy. This can be addressed by using biomarkers, and this is why our aim is to identify predictive serum or urinary biomarkers for IgA vasculitis nephritis onset to limit renal complications. Our clinical question is which biomarkers have the highest predictive accuracy for the onset of renal damage in these patients, and we can answer this question by using the PFO framework, where the population is represented by pediatric patients with IgA vasculitis. The prognostic factors are the serum and urinary biomarkers, and the outcome is represented by nephritis, nephrotic syndrome, or acute kidney injury. We hypothesize that the neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio, urinary KIM-1, and NGAL can predict the risk for renal damage. And if this is true, this translates into our day-to-day practice by having a better risk stratification, which means an earlier tailored intervention for our patients. As for the research, it highlights the need for an international study to validate the risk score in this pathology. Here you can see our search key. It contains 3 domains based on the population, the disease, and the biomarkers we want to analyze. We conducted it in 3 international databases, and we have around 7,000 articles by using this search key. From these 7,000 articles, we selected multiple sets of key articles to prove the feasibility of our topic. For example, this set of 5 key articles looking at the neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio as a prognostic factor for the appearance of renal involvement. As I already said, we started with around 7,000 articles, and after the title and abstract selection, we have around 183. In summary, regarding our first project, we decided that the topic is feasible after a thorough discussion with the entire team, comprising also statisticians and scientific methodology experts, and then we written our protocol, submitted it on the Prospero platform, and then proceeded with the search, the duplicate removal, and the title and abstract selection, and now we are in the full text selection phase. Going to the second project on investigating the predictive accuracy of different histological classifications for renal outcomes in IgA vasculitis nephritis, which will be also a systematic review and meta-analysis. About the background, as I already said, the renal involvement is the most severe manifestation of IgA vasculitis because it's responsible for long-term morbidity. The problem here is that up to 60% of the patients with IgA vasculitis develop the renal involvement in the course of the disease, usually in the first year after the diagnosis. This is why the most recent guidelines from 2024 recommend monitoring urinalysis for at least 1 year after the diagnosis, and based on the presence and extent of proteinuria, we can decide to do a kidney biopsy. The guidelines recommend assessing the biopsy by using the International Study of Kidney Disease in Children classification, and then proceed with the treatment based on this classification. Then where is the problem here? Well, this is a 1977 classification, and it focuses only on the active glomerular inflammation and neglects the vascular and tubular interstitial changes. The problem is also that the most recent research shown that the proportion of sclerotic glomeruli and interstitial fibrosis are actually better predictors of long-term outcome, and they are not included in this old classification. What can we do about that? At the beginning, we can look at the other available classifications, most of them used in IgA nephropathy and with a limited utilization in IgA vasculitis nephritis, but from which the Oxford and semi-quantitative classifications seem to be the most precise and promising. So our aim is to evaluate the predictive value of different classifications in establishing the severity of IgA vasculitis nephritis. Our clinical question is, are newer classifications more accurate in predicting renal outcomes in pediatric IgA vasculitis nephritis? In order to answer to that question, we can use the PIRD framework, where the population is represented by pediatric patients with biopsy-proven IgA vasculitis nephritis. The index test is represented by the different histological classifications. The reference test is the older classification, and the diagnosis of interest is represented by the renal function decline. We hypothesize that these newer classifications are better at predicting renal outcomes than the old classification. If we can prove this, this means that we have at hand a more comprehensive histological classification for our patients, so a better therapeutic management, because as you saw in the guidelines, the therapeutic management is decided based on the histological classification. Also, going to the research implication, this is a call of action for multicentric studies to validate a new and better histopathological score in this pathology. The search key is comprised again of 3 domains. It has a similar structure with the first one, and we have around 14,000 hits by searching in 4 international databases. For example, we have here selected some key articles that are comparing the Oxford classification with the International Study of Kidney Disease in Children classification, and this adds up to the feasibility of our topic. To sum up, I have 3 projects that I started this year. I talked about the first 2 of them, and for the sake of time, I don't go into details about the last one, but it will focus on investigating the prevalence of depressive symptoms in adolescents and young adults with chronic kidney disease, and it will be a Neurostat analysis. I am very enthusiastic about my work, and I wish to finish it by the end of next year. And in the end, I want to echo what once Albert Einstein said: once we accept our limits, we go beyond them. And I want to thank you for your kind attention, and I'm happy to receive your questions.
Thank you, Madalina.
Can I ask if these biomarkers are available worldwide?
Well, this is a very good question. I was asking this myself while reading the articles. The problem is that some of the biomarkers are more difficult to obtain, like the urinary kidney injury molecule or the NGAL. They are not so easily accessible. But the good part about what we are studying is that we have also some biomarkers that are like the neutrophil and lymphocyte ratio that focuses on markers from the complete blood count, and this is available for everyone in healthcare. So if we will prove that this is useful, it will be worldwide available.
Regarding to your first project, I have one question. Why is it so important that be as more accurate and prevent and about the late diagnosis too? So why is it important to
diagnose earlier?
Yes.
Because when we have the classic manifestations, the presence of hematuria, proteinuria that are defining the renal involvement at this moment, this means that already the glomerular membrane is affected, and it is not in all the cases. For some patients, it's something temporary, transitory. But for some patients, in the moment that we already have proteinuria, it means that the renal function would not be the same. If we can use some, this type of biomarkers are used to diagnose to predict the risk at the beginning of the disease, when we have just the skin manifestation or the joint manifestations. And then if we know that the patient is at risk, we can follow him up more closely. And for example, if we have only hematuria, this is this doesn't mean such a severe manifestation of nephritis, and we can intervene at that point. That is the advantage.
Thank you. And I have a second question also.
Sure.
That for the first project, is there any a connection between to the oral health or for the dentist? Do you recommend something or?
I didn't go into so much details about it, but I know that from the epidemiology of the disease, of course, a bad oral health means an increased risk of IgA vasculitis, because there is a multifactorial physiopathology, but usually infections are those triggering the vasculitis, and it can be everywhere in the body.
What is the standard of care to prevent renal involvement in IgA vasculitis patients now?
Well, as I said, there is a lack of evidence-based guidelines, and there was some hypothesis, I think around 15 or 20 years ago, that giving corticosteroids to these patients can prevent the renal involvement onset. But there were some RCTs done, I think in 2010 or something like this, and they saw that there is no advantage. And of course, everyone knows that corticosteroids have many side effects, so we can't use them. And at this point, the only thing we can do is just to closely monitor the patients.